Welcome to Well Body. I'm Renee, your host, and this is the podcast for everything your body needs as a woman to become healthier and fitter effortlessly. Here, we're all about feeling energized, beautiful, strong, and going from zero to thriving. Let's ditch the Fitspo diet culture once and for all and start living your best life with methods that actually make real lasting changes. It's time to embrace the journey to a well body holistically. Let's dive in together. Welcome back to the Well Body podcast. I'm your host, Renee, and today I am so excited to bring to you a really special guest, Elizabeth from A Woman of Wellness. Elizabeth is a certified wellness coach who helps women make peace with food, reconnect with their bodies, and build sustainable wellness habits that actually support a fulfilling, thriving life. And her mission speaks straight to the heart of what we stand for here on the podcast, which is ditching diet culture, honoring your body, and creating health from the inside out. And I was really drawn to Elizabeth's message because I see so many women, whether they're clients I work with or just conversations that I've had with other women, that there is this deep pressure to just get it right when it comes to food, and the constant battle between eating perfectly and feeling like you've failed when life happens. It's just exhausting. And I know firsthand how that obsession with food and the body can steal your energy and your joy and even your connection to yourself. So for me, there was definitely a time when I thought that being healthy meant rigid tracking, avoiding foods that I loved, and punishing myself with workouts when I slipped up. But the truth is, I wasn't free. And I know that so many women listening right now have experienced this kind of feeling and these experiences too. So where food becomes a source of guilt rather than it actually being something that nourishes us. So today's conversation is about rewriting that story. It's about learning how to trust your body again, how to eat without anxiety, and how to truly take care of yourself from a place of compassion rather than control. So Elizabeth, welcome to the show. I am so honored to have you here. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into working with women and food relationships.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm actually really excited for this conversation. And really, what got me started was I started in this business as a personal trainer. And I, had all the information that the textbooks told me to
Mm-hmm.
give to my clients. So I gave them the plan, right? I said, hey, here's the plan, follow this plan. And time again, I had clients coming back, not getting results, not following the plan, and consistently not following the plan. And my naive brain at the time was like, well, hello, here's the plan, follow it, and you'll get the results. And, so many of those moments, including my own, I was actually struggling myself with
Mm.
trying to follow the perfect plan and also sabotaging all the time. And so it led me down the road of there must be some root cause or some sort of, it must be behavior based, right? It has to be that there's a reason we can't do it. There's a reason we can't follow the perfect plan. And for anyone that's been on any diet or plan knows that it's probably a cycle where we follow it for a minute and then we sabotage for one reason or another. And a lot of times it was my client's lifestyle. They just said, I got stressed, I got overwhelmed, I emotionally ate, I couldn't keep up with it. And so that's really what started me down that path of we've got to look at the behaviors here. We've got to
Mm-hmm.
understand the root cause and the motivation behind change in order to actually create change. And once I figured that out, then I was able to help my clients get those results.
I 100% can't agree with you more. And I just love I love how you started off as a personal trainer, because that connects with me on a deeper level, because that's where I started as well. And as a personal trainer, you kind of hear it all and see it all because you're working with so many different people. And especially if you're a female trainer, you're attracting a lot of other women, and you notice all of these behaviors that are quite similar between women. What do you think the most common behavior is around food relationships that stops someone from actually seeing the results?
All or nothing thinking.
Uh-huh.
100% of the time. We get in our minds that we have to do it perfectly in order to get the results. And, it's not anybody's fault. It's not your fault for thinking that because that's what we're taught. We're taught that if you follow this plan, just like I mentioned, as I did the same thing, um, it sets us up for sabotage. And I have a unique definition of sabotage. It's the expectation of perfection
Oh, I
or
love that.
starting with that. And
Yes.
so, yeah, and so it's really like if we're setting ourselves up for being perfect, sabotage is inevitable.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. And I think we have this idea of, you know, being able to do something like a meal plan or a workout routine is that we can only do it if it's perfect. If we can do every single day, if we can, train as hard as we can Monday to Sunday without a single break in between. And this is what gets a lot of women lost in this kind of all or nothing mindset. Oh, well, if I can't do it, there's no point doing it at all. What would you say, you know, that transition you had from being a personal trainer into doing what you do now, what was the tipping point for you that you were like, something's got to change within my programming and the way I work with my clients?
I think for me, it was that I was struggling myself. So I was
Mm,
feeling like this imposter, I guess, where I was telling them to do this and then I couldn't even do it myself. I found myself trying to be perfect throughout the day. And ironically, it was the more I would learn about nutrition, the more I'd try to be strict,
mm,
right? And then I'd sabotage. And my kind of vice, I guess you'd say, or my habit was that I earned a treat at the end of the day, every single day. And it was like I just was addicted to food satisfying this emotion that I made it through the day or I accomplished something. And
hmm.
so that's really, I mean, it was just for me, it was like I can't get my clients results and I can't get myself results. And that was for me the tipping point that was like, we've got to figure something out here.
Yeah. So what does that look like now for your clients? Like, how would you set someone up with let's say a program, someone's approached you and they want to work on either changing their weight or they want to change something about their energy or their overall well-being? Like, what does that look like for someone now? Look at as the way you do things in today.
Usually, when someone is in that position, they're in a bad relationship with their bodies, or what I might call a messy relationship with their bodies, because
Yes.
a lot of attempts at a plan or weight loss is because we want to escape our bodies. We get
Yeah.
disgusted by it, or we're the heaviest we've ever been, or we're just unhappy in our bodies. And that's usually the tipping point for us to start a plan or a diet. And so the biggest thing that I always start with from day one with women is start building that nurtured. You said compassionate. I love that word. I use the words nurture and nourish, a
Yeah.
nurturing and nourishing relationship with your body. And if you think about it, let's just think of a regular relationship, like a spouse or a significant other. If you are constantly ignoring that person, if you're speaking down to them, if you're, kind of feeding them bad words or whatever, that relationship is not going to thrive. But
No.
if you're spending time with them, if you're nurturing them, if you're being kind, using kind words, doing nice things for them, that relationship will thrive. And it's the same thing with our
Mm,
body. But we have to start building that relationship with the body that we have. We can't change it overnight.
no.
So building that relationship while we're in the transition to change, right? It's okay to learn that we can nurture our body to change. Change can be good, but when it comes from a place of shame
Mm.
and disgust, it very rarely ends happily.
100%. Like, I don't know about you, but I always have the saying, if you can't love yourself 10 kilos heavier, what makes you think you're going to love yourself 10 kilos lighter? You have to love yourself in every single version of where you're at, like meeting yourself in that journey and going, okay, this is where I'm at, and I need to love her now because in order to keep loving her as she makes progress and as she sees these results, I have to keep working on this self-love component. And I think that's the missing piece to a lot of these fitness journeys and programs that you see people trying and buying. I don't know. There are so many women out there that have probably spent thousands and thousands of dollars on so many different apps and plans, and they're still stuck in the same spot. But I think the missing component here is that self-love and that nurture and that nourish that you mentioned. I love those words. They give me goosebumps.
Yeah. And sometimes some people might feel like self-love feels really far away,
Yeah.
especially if you don't feel that close. And so I always tell women it's also okay to shoot for words like acceptance or gratitude and recognize that there is a little bit of a scale that we work toward, to be able to say, yeah, like I'm committed to this and I want to work on this. And it's okay that I'm not right now, but I'm still committed to it. And that's the goal.
Absolutely. And I guess the more someone tells themselves self that, the more their brain and their body is going to be okay. I'm starting to believe myself now. And I noticed on your website as well that you had this beautiful meditation available for people to download based on, remind me what it was for, like
Um, Mindful eating. Yeah.
mindful eating. And I love that. So let's talk a little bit more about how meditation can help you with these components of something like mindful eating.
Yeah, which is great because that would really be step number two.
Yeah.
We're building this relationship, and now mindful eating is saying, okay, body, I'm going to start connecting with you and listening to the cues that you're giving me. We probably don't realize how chaotic of eaters we are.
Yeah.
We tend to just grab and go a lot, or we don't pay attention, or if we've followed a lot of diet plans, we live in this world where I can or can't eat that, or I have to only have this many calories. And so we really have lost the gift that we have in our body of knowing and meeting the needs of our own body. And we were born with that. So it's still in there. But at some point in our lives, whether it was a diet or something, we kind of started to ignore it or we kind of lost touch with it, but it's still there. And I always tell women it's a gift that you have and it's never going away. We just need to open that connection again, right? Reconnect there. And that's where that kind of step number two is let's start with some mindful eating. Start paying attention to what it feels like when you're hungry.
Mm.
Start paying attention to the food that you taste and enjoy and or maybe don't like, but you usually overeat on it. But when you realize, when you pay attention, you actually end up not liking it. Like some of those things happen, but um, being very mindful of what's going in your body and then learning, oh, I feel a hunger or fullness cues. I recognize this. I'm going to stop when I'm full. And I have a really good analogy that some might resonate with. I am a mom to three, and I have potty trained two of them so far. And I like to give this analogy where healing your relationship with food and mindful eating is a lot like potty training. At the very beginning, it takes a lot of focus and
Hmm.
effort. When you're potty training a child, you are all in. You're not leaving the house, you're listening for the cues, and there's lots of mistakes and lots of learning. But as time goes on, you are able that child is able to start learning those cues, and then you can go to the park and then you can go to the store, and then eventually they have those cues and they can use them anywhere. And it's the same thing with mindful eating. We start really focusing in on it. And that's what this audio meditation is for, is to really help you hone in and you sit down and you eat a meal and listen to it and pay attention. And the goal is that you have that skill to then utilize everywhere that you eat.
Beautiful. I love that. It's that reconnection to food, like you say, that we're all born with. And in this modern day world that we live in, which is 24/7, go, 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 hustle, 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 everywhere you go, it's like that. It's very, easy to get caught up in just grabbing and going, and not even realizing that you've probably eaten as much as you've probably eaten. And then you sit down finally at the end of the day and you end up eating an extra 3,000 calories because you didn't even realize the food that you were eating during the day. And so that mindfulness approach could not be more important. So, step one would be to meet yourself where you're at, find this love for yourself, build this better relationship with yourself, whether that's just starting with acceptance, if self-love seems too hard. And then the second step would be moving into this more practicing mindfulness and then learning how to have a better mindfulness approach to when you're eating a meal. So, limiting your screens when you're eating, getting rid of your phones, and just being fully present with your food and yourself, or even your family and your food. What would be the next step from there to help someone heal their relationship with food and themselves?
This is where we implement a nutrition strategy. So if we want to give our bodies the best chance of giving those right cues to us, we need the right nutrients. So we need a balance of macronutrients, which are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. And so that's when that plan that we kind of talked
Yeah.
about, the strategy really comes in because now we can say, okay, if I'm sitting down and I've got a balance of proteins and carbohydrates and fats, then I can trust that my body is going to tell me what it needs. If we sit down and eat a bagel for breakfast, well, we're not giving our body a lot of the nutrients that it needs. So it's going to it's going to give us more signals for more
Yeah.
food. And a lot of times we can get those all mixed up with emotional eating. That's where a lot of emotional eating and cravings come in because your body's saying, hey, I still want something, I still need something. And if we have the nutrition strategy with the right nutrients, then we give it what it needs and it's satisfied. And it's so powerful when women start to realize that those cravings disappear when they start giving their bodies what it actually needs.
Absolutely. I think what probably a lot of women get lost up in is the old diet culture thought of, oh, but I've already eaten a bagel, so I probably shouldn't eat enough. And so they're kind of confused with like what their body genuinely needs versus these old beliefs and old thought patterns. And that's why step 1 and 2 is so critically important so that you learn the mindfulness around food so that you can then apply the important tools around having a nutritionally balanced plate, from start of the day to the end of the day. So, what does that typically look like for the women that you work with? You're giving them some nutritional tools. Are you also encouraging a little bit of exercise alongside this, being a personal trainer as well? How important, is strength training and things like that for your clients?
Yeah, I have to go a little bit back on my word and say I actually always start with movement and
Yes.
then I incorporate mindful eating and nutrition strategy because it doesn't matter what your goal is, it doesn't matter what you're working on. Movement will make you feel better. It will make you feel better in your body. It will make you feel better about your body. And physiologically, it's going to help with your metabolism. It's going to help your body utilize the food that you're going to give it. And so many women find themselves, in low calories because they're not exercising and their bodies are saying, "Hey, I don't know, I can't burn the calories if you're not giving me enough." And so really first of all getting that movement for
Yeah.
feeling good in your body. And I tell women if starting a strength training program, if you didn't lose a pound, but you stayed consistent with strength training, your body would change and it would feel better.
Oh,
It
yeah.
would feel better and so powerful. So, yes, movement is so important and it's right alongside. And you said a phrase that I always say, and I love this, and every woman in my community knows this, meet yourself where you are.
Yeah.
So there's no one size fits all exercise. But what works for you is going to be the best thing.
Absolutely. The best plan to follow is the plan you can stick to, right? The one that you can
Yes.
show up to. And I think, the movement side of things, it's going to metabolically improve your metabolism, it's going to improve your body composition over time. But mentally, like you said, if you're not seeing a weight result per se with your exercise, what is that doing for your mental health? How is that increasing your dopamine naturally? How is that increasing the oxytocin and that love that you have for yourself and also just life? Who no one ever regrets a workout afterwards. They always walk out feeling so much better than when they first walked in. No matter where you're at and what your day's been like, exercise, I feel like, is just the one thing that is going to make everyone feel 10 times better. So I guess as well, if someone's starting to move their body more, it's probably going to push them in that direction to wanting to touch on the nutrition side of things. Because I don't know about you, but whenever I was working as a personal trainer training clients, they eventually, after getting into an exercise routine, were then like, okay, now I'm ready for the nutrition side of things. I think it's just like for some people, a really good stepping stone into wanting to make a better lifestyle, a better change with their nutrition. Um, when Let's talk a little about your story now. But when did the shift happen for you personally? From controlling food to then trusting food. How long did that kind of take for you? Just so people get an idea as to like, this is not an 8 week kind of fix. It can be up to, as long as it takes for some women to change that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of women are afraid of timelines. And I always say, throw out the timelines. Everybody's going to change at their own pace. I worked with a woman who dieted for 30 years, okay?
Wow.
30 years. She was afraid of carbohydrates and sugars. And we worked together for 6 months and she was a new woman. And that's what it took for her. And she went on, to work on a little bit more like weight loss things, but like to be able to heal that relationship with food it took that kind of time. And so for me, what it took was starting to build some evidence that I was able to do it this way. I
Yeah.
think we're so afraid. We have stories, we have beliefs that are really backed in truth, right? Because let's say we have a story that I can't control myself around the M&Ms. And every time I'm around them, I overeat them. Well, that's a really strong story that is true because every time you're around them, you overeat them and you've built evidence upon evidence that
Yes.
that's the true story for you, right? And so what we have to do is start stepping into the new story. I can feel safe and confident around food. And then I've got to practice it, right? And that mindful eating is really the first step. And we have to start building evidence on that side. And what I tell people is it's not going to just be overnight. Like you
No.
said, it takes some time to build one piece of evidence, one more piece of evidence to say, okay, I don't need a treat tonight. And I can do whatever I want tomorrow, but tonight I'm going to honor my body. I'm going to nurture and nourish it. It doesn't need that. Maybe it needs a walk. Maybe it needs a nap or some sleep, right? I'm listening to it. And I have one bit of evidence that, look, I can do that. And for
Mm.
me, it was that simple. And I wish I had some magical potion, but that's my magical potion really is that it's building that evidence one choice at a time that I can do this and I can nourish my body and I can say no to that because it wasn't a need at the time and the the I guess the word proud is coming to me, like
I
the
love
feeling
that.
of pride after versus the guilt and shame on the other end, right? The constant guilt and shame. We built one piece of evidence. Man, I am proud that I made that choice. And you know what? Tomorrow's a new day. And I get to make another choice tomorrow. I'm not going to set expectations of perfection on myself today, but I am going to say I did it. And as soon as we start building that evidence, it shifts to this story is now the truth for me.
I love that. It's like rewiring your nervous system to believe that it's capable of making these decisions and putting in the reps, like when you're in the gym. The only way you're going to get better at your squat and get more depth is by practicing, putting in the reps, showing up each week, and just continuing to practice and get that squat right. It's the same with the things around food. The only way you're going to believe that you can control yourself around the M&Ms is by putting in the reps. And yeah, like you say, just kind of making it your norm. And I guess it's just repetitive patterns because we get ourselves in these repetitive patterns, maybe from a more unhealthy point of view to the point where we binge eat and things like that. But we have the ability to change that if we just believe in ourselves and prove it by showing ourselves that we can do it. And once we do it once, our body's like, oh, I can do it. I did this. And it becomes something that we can continue to do. Like I remember back in the day when I was heavily restricting myself with food, I then had this obsession with chocolate because I restricted it for so many years that every single night I would eat a whole block of chocolate. And it just became this habit for me because I was like, I can actually eat chocolate, but now I've taken it too far. And I built this like really bad habit of just eating a whole like size bar of chocolate. Like I'm not talking a little chocolate, like it was a big family block. And I would just eat it every single night. And then one day I was like, what am I doing? I've just fallen into this trap of going to the supermarket on my way home from work and getting a block of chocolate and eating it with a movie after dinner. And it just became this habit. And it was something that never happened for me before, but it was because of all that restriction. And then I finally let it all go, but I let it go to the point where it was too far. And then we scaled things back in and we finally found a balance again. But it's amazing how putting in those reps of anything, it's going to become your norm. Have you ever had that happen with someone you've worked with where they've gone to the point of letting it go too much to the point where it becomes a bit binge eating problem?
Yeah, I have two examples. One, I want to talk about the chocolate because I think this is fascinating. I used to teach these classes in person at my job, and we did this mindful eating meditation, and it was with a piece of chocolate.
I
And
love that.
it was so interesting because we did this meditation with this piece of chocolate, and this woman afterwards said, I eat so much chocolate mindlessly. And she said, doing this exercise, I didn't even enjoy it. She said, I just realized I don't even like chocolate. And I thought that was so fascinating to me that she said she realized like how mindless it truly was
Yes.
for her, you know?
It does become
And
like, it just becomes, yeah.
it was just one like shift for her, like, oh, that's not that's not what I really wanted, you know? It was just a habit, like you
Mm,
mentioned. And I have another woman who had an ice cream obsession. So if ice cream was anywhere in her house, she was overdoing it all the
yeah.
time. And so it's interesting because in her brain, it was very much restricted,
Hmm.
but it was still available. You right? We have a lot of things that we say we're not supposed to eat, but yet we still eat them. And we
Yeah.
this is bad, but I'm still doing this. And we worked on, the discussion, the root cause and the behavior behind that and the thoughts behind that. And then we actually said, okay, enjoy the ice cream. Go for it. Guilt free. Like we are talking just like this is not guilty, you're going for it. And at first she ate a lot of ice cream, a lot of ice cream. And she was like, I ate a lot of ice cream and I loved it. And she said, and then it started to lose its appeal to me. When it was available to me, it lost its appeal. And
Yeah.
she said, I have ice cream in my freezer and it's been there for 2 weeks and I've never had that happen. And I like to tell people it's very similar to if you have a bunch of kids, little toddlers playing in a play area, and there's a bunch of toys, and they're playing with all the toys. And you come in and you say, I'm going to take this one specific toy away from you. What toy do every single one of those kids want? If you, the one that you're taking away,
Yes,
right? It's the
exactly.
same thing. As soon as we place a forbidden label on something, it builds up a craving. So when we allow it, and it takes some practice, right? It takes some practice with this, but once we start to allow it mentally, we start to realize it loses its hold on us because it's available. This food is always available to me. And if it's always available to me, do I really want it all the time? And at the beginning, it might be a little bit. But like I shared in that story, it does balance out.
Yes, it does. And I think it's just having patience with yourself. And that is the one thing we women unfortunately struggle with is that patience on this journey. And I think it's not your fault. It's more about like we're consumed by marketing. Everywhere you go, it's like here's a 28-day fat loss plan. Here's a 30-day shake plan that will have you losing, 10 kilos in a month. And we're surrounded by this crazy marketing or celebrity diet culture, and we kind of get in our heads that that should be the case for us too. But it takes time and patience and just putting in the reps and being as consistent as you possibly can with what you can with where you're at. And if we can adopt more of a mindset like that, women are just going to have a much better time on their journey when it comes to achieving weight loss or achieving just being satisfied with who you are and where you are. Because I can guarantee 90% of women walk around thinking about how they look and what their next meal is. And
Yeah.
that's the unfortunate truth.
Yeah, and I always remind women you are worthy of time and you are worthy of it taking time. So you're
Yes.
worthy of spending that time on yourself to heal and work through it. And you're also worthy of it taking some time. I don't have any timelines in my coaching practice because we all change at a different rate and that's okay.
100%. I love that so much. I think, yeah, I get so many people wanting to work with me specifically and they want to do it in 8 weeks. And I've actually started turning people away that come to me and say, "Hey, I've got a wedding and I want to lose weight in 10 weeks time because my wedding's in like 3 months." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I can't do that." Like,
Yeah.
I can help you get healthier in the process and you might lose a little bit of weight, but that's just personally, I just don't feel comfortable helping someone lose weight as fast as they can. It doesn't align with me
Yeah.
as a coach, and you're probably the same.
Yes.
Why, why do you think that women get stuck in this restrict, binge, kind of all or nothing mindset cycle that we've been kind of touching on? What do you think it is?
Bodies. You
Yeah.
kind of brought that in. It's about comparison. And we have three different ways that we compare. We compare to others, right? We compare to other bodies.
Yep.
We compare to the ideal. So there's some ideal that we've created in our mind that, has come from society or someone that you know. And we also compare to ourselves and who we
Yeah.
used to be. So many women are like, I used to be this size, or I used to be here. And that's that's almost all the time that's where it stems from, is that relationship with your body.
Yeah.
And when it's not good, then that's the entry point into that diet cycle.
100%. I think those points are amazing. And I also think there's also like a link for some women that relates back to their childhood as well, when they might have seen their mothers or their aunties or even their fathers being in this constant diet exercise cycle where they're always trying to lose weight, always trying to be slim, always on some program. And I believe you're a product of your environment. So even if it's not something that's forced upon you, it's still within your environment and you're picking up on those behaviors. Then, hey, you get to a certain age and you start noticing things about your own body. And because you saw your mum or your auntie or your sister or whatever go through this terrible relationship with themselves and food, it then becomes something that you're then stuck with. But I do believe that if you make that change, you can be not only the change for yourself, but your next generations that are within your space and your environment. Like, I have a daughter, and I'm personally always trying to consciously make an effort to be like, if I'm measuring out protein, it's like because I need enough. I need to make sure I'm eating enough to fuel my body so that I can recover after my workouts because it's so important that women are strong rather than it being something about, oh, just I'm weighing food, but
Yeah.
it's hard, but we have to be so conscious about it because I see a massive link between how someone was brought up and their relationship with themselves and their food. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it it goes back to it originates from the word different.
Yeah.
So we've got comparison, but it's usually when a girl or a woman discover that they're different than they're supposed to be, different
Hmm.
than her, different than they used to be, right? And we've connected different with bad or
Mm.
wrong,
Yes.
right? So
So
my
true.
body looks different, and that's wrong. And it's hard because that's the story I mean, we begin with that story. It starts somewhere. For everyone, it starts somewhere. Whether it was told to you by your mom or your aunt or your grandma. I actually, when I was younger, I had a pair of shorts I loved. And as like a young girl, if you love something, you wear it a bunch, And so I always wore these shorts. And I have a really distinct memory of my grandma telling my mom that I needed to stop wearing those shorts because my legs didn't look good in them.
Oh my
And
God.
it was me, and luckily my mom, was never dieting. We didn't have that in our home, luckily. But that one thing stood out so much to me that I realized my legs were different. I created
Mm.
that story, right? And that was wrong. They were bad in those. They were bad. They didn't fit the shorts or
Yeah.
whatever. And, that is something that I have had to work through and create a new story. Like, my legs are strong. I don't have skinny legs, but they're strong. And I love to hike and I love to run and I do a lot of things with them and they're very powerful. And that's good. And
Yeah.
I've been able to change that story from bad, because different, right? Different equals bad to, hey, different because different, strong. And they're not so much different than regular legs. I'm not saying that, but just I saw it at the time. And I had to rewrite that story, just like so many women may have to. And we may have to revisit some of those origins of those stories.
Totally. Like that was in your world, it was different for you, right? And rewriting that story, that's one of the most powerful things that you can do to help your relationship with your body and your food again. You have to sometimes go back in time, even if it's uncomfortable. And that's what having a coach or having a support person is really important for because you've got someone there nurturing you and guiding you through this journey so that you're not doing it on your own and you are doing it with support and help. And I suppose that's exactly, what you're doing in your community, which is really, really cool. I want to ask you a few questions,
Yeah.
and these might be personal to you or something that, you just believe in as a philosophy, but what does a healthy, empowered relationship with food look like to you? How would you sum that up?
I love that question because the answer I would give is a not perfect relationship with food.
Yes, I
I
love that.
always, yeah, I always tell women that food freedom doesn't mean a perfect relationship with food. In fact, it doesn't mean that you're never going to overeat again or you're never going to emotionally eat again. We experience emotions, we experience life, but food freedom truly means being able to realign quicker. So you may overeat, and instead of spiraling out of control for days, weeks, months like you did in the past, you recognize, okay, I see what happened. I have food freedom, right? I've healed that relationship with food and I can get right back on track. And I learned kind of what happened. Or, yeah, I had an emotion and I turned to food to deal with that. And I see what happened. And I have a skill now. I have food freedom and I have a skill that I can go back and see what was I feeling and how can I deal with that emotion so that I don't do that again. So really food freedom is about realigning quicker.
Beautiful. That is such a powerful, powerful message. I think a lot of the things that we've touched on today are going to help so many women with their just their brains going, ah, it is possible for me to love myself and heal my relationship. That was beautiful, gold. Okay, my next question for you. What are some of the first steps women can take to shift from control to connection?
That is a good question. I would just say awareness.
Mm,
I mean, we kind of touched on it with the mindful eating, is
yes.
starting to be aware, starting to say, okay, I am committed to the positive outcome of this relationship with my body, whatever
Yes.
that looks like, right? A healthy lifestyle, maybe long-term weight loss, sustainable weight loss, and telling yourself, I'm committed to this. And that means that I need to nurture and nourish this relationship. I need to pay some more attention to it. I need to be aware of things rather than try to ignore them. Or this is something that women are really good at, having someone else tell them what to do. I have so many
Mm,
women that are like, just tell me what to eat, tell me what to do. And I said,
yes.
well, yeah, but if you told me to go swimming for my exercise, I'd be like, I'm out. I don't like
Yeah.
swimming. I can't swim. I don't want to swim, but I do other things. And some people would say, you run? What? Ew, I don't want to run,
Yeah.
right? And so it's really important that we create awareness for ourselves because your body is unique and it's going to have unique needs and it's okay, and there's nutrition principles that are really good, but we can always adjust them according to our needs and our goals. I have women in my group program that, they want to be a little bit more fit and do more fit things. And I actually had a woman the other day sharing that she's like, I don't care so much about my weight. She's like, I want to be out on the water skiing in a muumuu when I'm 85 years old.
I love
I
that
just
so
said,
much.
I love that. And she's like, I don't care what my body looks like. I want to be able to do things I love. And I thought that is the definition of body acceptance and body love, is that we do the things that we love.
100%. And then without even realizing it, the byproduct of that is going to be a stronger, fitter body that works for you. It's going to be a better relationship with food because you've got this beautiful acceptance and relationship with yourself that naturally the byproduct of your choices are going to just be what aligns with, you know, creating a healthier body anyway. So it becomes
Yeah.
just something that is second nature because we have this, I guess, this perspective as to what we want with our overall health and well-being. Oh, I want to be
Yeah.
85 water skiing.
Right?
That's the
I
goal.
and which is so funny because I have tried to water ski probably 40 times. I cannot get up once, so I'm like, that is not on my bucket
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, we'll just keep hiking.
Yeah,
I align with
exactly.
you. I love a good hike. There's plenty of beautiful hikes here in New Zealand and we're so sport for choice that I'm always trying to find a new hike to do. It's getting out of nature, one of the best things to regulate your nervous system and just feel connected to yourself. I think it's a great tool for people working on their relationship with their bodies and food because nothing beats just being by some trees or some water or forest, wherever, whatever that looks like to you, just getting outside. It's you can't beat it.
I agree.
Okay, I have another question for you. How can we embrace nourishing our bodies without making without making it another source of stress?
That's a good question.
Because some women, like let's say a really busy woman who's already stressed to the max, but the idea of having to make any kind of change makes her feel even more stressed out about life, I guess you could say.
Yeah. The first thing that I would say is we're focusing on nourishing and nurturing. So
Yeah.
within the capacity, you said the phrase meet yourself where you are a couple of times, and I love it because that's what I embrace as well. And you have to do what you can in your capacity. So
Yes.
it may be like, okay, what can I do right now to nurture and nourish my body? But also, a little bit of tough love is that sometimes we may need to take a look at
Yeah.
our priorities and we may need to say, you know what, this is taking place of something that actually should go here. And I have personally experienced that actually. It's not easy to work. I have three kids
Yeah, that's
and one of
a
them is a toddler. And I have found myself like I'm a coach, okay? And I have also found myself in a place of you are putting too much priority in this area and you're not getting some of these needs met. And then I
yeah.
pay for it. And I have to realign, right? I have to realign and I sometimes have to eliminate things. And that's really hard to do. But I think it's important when we meet ourselves where we are, we know, okay, this may be a time to work hard at a goal. I'm
Yeah.
training for an obstacle course race right now. I've never done one before.
Cool.
Well, it's a pretty, yeah, I've done a small one, but this one's like the obstacle course race and it's scary and I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I've had to like put in some more work at the gym and it's been so interesting for me to realize that I've had to adjust some things to put more work into that goal. But when I'm done with that goal, I may just return to my regular workout and that's okay too. And things can shift. And so I want everyone to know that it's okay to shift. You can still live a healthy lifestyle within whatever lifestyle you have.
100%. I love that so much. Like you say, meeting yourself where you're at and doing a bit of a self audit on your current lifestyle. What can you change right now, even if it's one thing? Maybe you're spending too much time scrolling on social media, which I know is a massive one for a lot of people. And I sometimes even will say to some clients that are really struggling to make things work, can we have a look at your social media screen time on your phone? Let's have a look at the
Yeah.
analysis. And sometimes there's been 5 hours for some people where they're on their phone. I'm like, okay, well, how can we eliminate an hour or two from that so that you can cook breakfast for yourself? And so you can maybe meal prep your lunch tomorrow. Let's just focus on those two things. So it's we sometimes do, like you say, we need to have a bit of tough love, do a bit of a self audit on what's currently going on in our world and how can we swap that for that. And once we start to get this baseline of these consistent healthy habits, then we can add in an obstacle course training program like what you're doing. But then we know we've got this kind of baseline we can go back to when things aren't as don't need to be as hectic. So I really love that. I think that's a really powerful message because this journey isn't easy, but it's worth it and it takes time and you just got to be consistent and patient. I think
Yeah.
are the
I
key
actually,
takeaways.
yeah, I have an unpopular opinion that we spend too little time making our meals and taking care of
Yeah.
our bodies. And
Yes.
I'm guilty of this too, but I have a lot of women that are like, I just want to make meal planning as efficient and as fast as possible. And it's taken me some years to get here, but I realized that there's a lot of joy for me in preparing food and food that nourishes my body. And I actually want to spend a little bit more time in the kitchen. And I have three kids, so I get it. Like, it's not that much fun to cook right now, but I think there's power in spending more time
Yeah.
on things that nourish us. And so if we're trying to escape that, it's probably going to be a lot harder than if we just embrace it and say, yeah, this may take part of my time. Where can I cut out somewhere else that's not like social media?
Yeah, 100%. I think cooking food, I mean, it really goes back to us as human beings. Do you know what I mean? Like, as human beings, food is part of our culture. It's been a part of our culture for centuries. And sometimes it's just about reconnecting to food on a deeper level than it just being something I've got to, shove down my gob because I got to get going and I don't want to be hungry when I get to work. You know,
Yeah.
I think we've lost that little bit of that connection in today's modern world where sitting down with your family and having a dinner that is, prepared on the middle of the table and everyone's talking about their day and passing around the potatoes and the peas. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yes.
definitely we've lost that cultural touch to food. And I think if we can bring a little bit of that back into our lives, it might help us a bit more with our connection with food and taking that time to prepare and just love every part of what we're doing. I think it comes back to just being present in the moment a little bit and reconnecting with ourselves in the process. And we're just trying to not be so distracted with everything else going on in our world. And when we're cooking, that's what we're doing. We're not trying to multitask and do everything. We're not putting on loads of washing whilst doing that and peeling those carrots and putting those in the oven. We're just focusing on cooking our food.
Yes, yes,
Mindfulness, I guess we could sum that up to be.
yes.
Oh, well, it's been so incredibly empowering having this conversation with you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. I just have two more questions that I want to ask to sum things up today. But what is one message that you want every woman listening to take away from this episode today?
You are capable of knowing and meeting the needs of your own body.
Yeah, I love
You
that.
have that gift. Yeah.
So powerful. It's just believing in yourselves again, 100%.
Yeah.
And where can our listeners find you? So what's something they can explore on your website or your Instagram handle? I mean, I will put everything in the show notes below, but just give us a little bit of an insight as to where people can find you and how they can, ask for your help.
Yeah, so since we're on a podcast, I have my own podcast called the Woman of Wellness Podcast, and I talk about very sim all the things that we've kind of talked about today and helping you create sustainable, healthy habits and achieving food freedom. I have that free mindful eating meditation, which we'll link, which we kind of talked about. I'm over on Instagram at a Woman of Wellness. I'm trying to do better at social media. It's not my strong point. I'm much better at podcasting. So I'm glad we're
Podcasts are
having a
fun.
podcast.
Yeah,
Yes,
podcasts are
it's
fun.
I'm way more long-winded. It's really hard for me to do like those 60-second videos or 30-second videos. I have more to say than that.
Yes.
So, but I am over there and I love having that community. And I have a community, a Healthy Habits membership for women that want to create some healthy habits and stop that cycle of starting over. So they can check all that out as well.
Beautiful. I will link everything down in the show notes. But thank you so much for coming on the Well Body podcast today. It's been so awesome to speak to someone who lives on the other side of the world. This is what I love about the internet, is that we can connect with other professionals from all over the place. It's just so empowering, and it's been such an awesome episode. And I know that everyone listening today is going to take away so many gold nuggets. If you have loved this episode, please don't forget to leave me a 5-star review. And if you got some value out of this episode and you know someone that would get some value out of it, please share it to them. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to having you on the next episode.